Well, climate change is one of the biggest existential threats of our time, right? And so, sometimes I talk to people and like, I can't even talk to you because it's so overwhelming. I don't even know where to start, right? Um, God is existential. I mean, there's that sort of, it's so immense. God's presence and God's creative forces and redeeming forces and all of those possibilities and is beyond our human understanding. And at some level, I think that climate change, the immensity and the enormity of it, if we sat with it, would be beyond our understanding. Um, but the experience of the divine, in the world and in creation assures us, I think, that there's something more powerful than we can ever imagine as a force. That creation itself had to be created by something, right? And I'm totally into science, so I'm not denying science, and but I do think that existential moment of time when creation happened um, is beyond our understanding, even as scientists continue to struggle with it. And you can look into the universe, and I've been fascinated with all the imagery that's been coming in through some of the telescopes, and I preach about that often, about the immensity of the universe, and that there's such unknowing. It's not just the earth, it's the creative forces of God beyond our world and beyond time, right? The time spectrum is so huge. So that this creative life force, which I call God, um, is is beyond our understanding. Um, and I was thinking about our time today, and I came upon a memory I hadn't thought of for years and years and years. Was when I was a kid. Um, we went up. I lived in New York State by the Hudson River, and we went on this field trip. It was like a 4-night overnight camping trip, and we weren't campers, but this was a field trip with the school. And for some reason, they had an early morning canoe trip, and I was in fifth or sixth grade, and I got up really early and went out with some of my classmates and a teacher, and we were canoeing on this lake, and there was this mist. And I always understood God to be in my life. I had never not known God, which is kind of weird. My family kind of talks about the fact that since the day I could talk about God in some fashion without the words, but I always said that God was there. And I remember sitting in that canoe in that morning sunrise and looking at the mist and saying, there's something there. There's something, and I don't know that I had the words for the divine when I was in fifth grade. Um, but that divine experience that sort of reminded me and constantly reminds me of the immensity and the intimacy of God all at the same time.